Technology applications for retail prove effective. American women donate historical items. The US open to further talks with North Korea over denuclearization.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
You are watching VTV News live at 3 p.m. Hanoi time. The Ministry of Planning and Investment has just released a report on the implementation of Resolution 001, as well as the socio-economic situation in the first 2 months of the year. As forecast, Q1 GDP is estimated at 6.58% compared to the same period in 2018. The ministry also pointed out challenges from the risks of other countries bypassing product origin regulations, changes in global supply chain as the US-China trade war escalate also affects Vietnam's economy. Participation in the new generation of free trade agreements requires higher requirements, including fulfilling more international commitments. CBRE Research conducted a survey across the Asia-Pacific region in January 2019, showing the pressure online retail creates for offline retail in stores. It can be seen that online retail growth is 8 to 10 times faster than the offline channel from 2016 up until now. This number may be even higher in Vietnam, with online retail's growth at more than 30%. This trend stems from the development of technology, so the application of technology may be the growth engine of the retail industry.
Building applications on the phone, stimulated product images, or use data to provide product suggestions for users. These are considered the first 3 steps retailers now apply to increase customer experience. New spending decisions are made when the experience is improved. Some e-commerce companies in Vietnam also said they would apply AI technology or Face ID for sales development this year.
Think about the past. It took 50 years for a TV to reach 50 million users, right? For the Pokemon Go or any other application in the world right now, it takes what? Few hours, 8 hours, and now everybody knows. So I think it's the matter of waiting and seeing how those changes will develop and grow here. Because we see the potential and we see that this is booming and this is where things are happening.
However, how technology should be used in the current retail market of Vietnam was heavily discussed.
I think the decision to apply the latest technology to the retail industry is good because it can attract customers' interest.
You have to find the ideas and technologies that completely change and define new industries in order to have the opportunity to compete with long-standing retailers in the world with lots of experience.
According to experts, the lessons of the success and failure of retail models in the US in 2018 show that businesses need a good strategy and technology investment for their supply chain and automatic store operations.
From the beginning of this year, the State Bank of Vietnam has required stricter credit risk control, including in the real estate sector. The risk weights for real estate loans increased from 200% to 250%. This means the bank's purse for real estate will shrink. Enterprises are forced to find alternative sources. The most prominent is the plan to mobilize capital through bond channels.
Vingroup announced it would offer 20 million non-convertible bonds with a total sales price of up to $86 million. Vinhome's John Stock Company also had 2 sessions to issue their bonds. Sunshine Group announced the issuance of 100 million bonds with a total value of about $431 million. As for Novaland, in 2018, this group issued international bonds valued at $300 million on the Singapore Stock Exchange. Other businesses, such as TT Land and Văn Phú Invest, also mobilized capital via corporate bond channels.
Experts have long argued that the capital structure is too dependent on banks and buyers, since real estate companies are financial investment companies. They themselves must have long-term capital, which is from the equity capital and the issuance of medium and long-term bonds.
The experts say that this year's bond issuance is also not easy due to the competition with the savings deposit channel. Thus, to have enough profit to attract investors to buy bonds is also a big challenge for real estate businesses.
It is a must for business to have prestige, stable finance, and transparent projects. Only those criteria help firms attract investment and issue bonds.
Another option is also considered by businesses. It is to choose a joint venture with foreign enterprises to diversify the project investment capital.
We plan to have some other resources. For example, we have joint venture partners from home and abroad. This is an additional source to promote each partner's strength to develop projects quickly and easily.
Last year, $6.6 billion of foreign indirect investment poured into the real estate sector, creating significant capital sources for the market. But this is also believed to create fierce competition for domestic businesses if they are not strong enough to compete.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development this morning worked with the People's Committee of Thanh Hóa Province to check the control of fowls and cattle at the Dốc Animal Quarantine Post in Bỉm Sơn Commune. The inspection team was led by Phùng Đức Tiến, Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. The priority is now preventing the spreading of the fever in the southern provinces, including Thanh Hóa. The province opened 2 animal quarantine posts on National Road 1A and added 4 on National Road 10. While measures are being implemented to control the African swine fever, a signing ceremony to build a trading floor for pork was held on Thursday between the Ho Chi Minh Department of Industry and Trade and the British Consulate General in Ho Chi Minh City. The establishment of the pork trading floor will help the Municipal Department of Industry and Trade keep better track of pork origins to ensure higher quality products. The trading floor is set to allow direct purchases without intermediaries from pig farmers. Every day, Ho Chi Minh City trades an average of 10,000 pigs and up to $500 million per year. Vietnamese agro products enter the Northern European market largely through companies of overseas Vietnamese of Chinese descent in Sweden. These are merchants with a deep understanding of the needs of the European market and a good source of Asian agro products. Meanwhile, the market is set to experience higher demand for Vietnamese agro products, with imports increasing steadily over recent years. A report from VTV correspondents in Sweden.
Diệp Văn Tỷ has a large company in Sweden specializing in importing Asian agricultural products, but he lives mainly in Vietnam. His company has imported more Vietnamese goods every year compared to the previous year.
My company imports from 70 to 90 containers of Vietnamese goods every year, valued at between 2 and 2.5 million USD a year. Most of the items are rice, vermicelli, frozen vegetables, and fish.
Tỷ is an overseas Vietnamese of Chinese descent. His business is one of more than 10 Chinese companies in Sweden specializing in importing Asian agro products. Another big company is CT Food, which belongs to Ma Sui. He regrets that he could not import Vietnamese rice even when Vietnamese rice is cheaper but harder to sell in the Nordic market.
Vietnam rice, like Thanh Nông, is a bit hard compared to Thai rice. Thai rice is known for its good quality, but the price is always double that of Vietnamese rice.
Á Châu Liên is an enterprise founded in 1981, only 1 year after the Liên family left Bạc Liêu to settle in Sweden. They have the biggest warehouse of Vietnamese agro products. Over the past 2 years, Vietnamese restaurants have gradually expanded, taking over market share from Chinese restaurants.
Many people travel to Vietnam. When they come back, they miss Vietnamese food and want to eat again. Therefore, the demand for Vietnamese food has increased sharply, and there are more Vietnamese restaurants opening up, quickly meeting the needs of consumers.
Asian agro-import companies also penetrated the Swedish market through the country's retail groups. Many supermarkets in Sweden, Denmark and Finland also source their Asian goods and Vietnamese agro products from this warehouse.
In order for Vietnam to meet the requirements of foreign markets such as the European market and the rising demand of the domestic market, the agriculture sector needs to restructure and promote the implementation of high technology. Let's see how it is done in the dairy sector.
This is the largest global GAP standard dairy farm complex in Asia. Here, the health of cows are monitored through electronic chips. Also, a robot called Lely Juno is used to prepare feed so that each cow can have fresh and nutritious meals with suitable portions.
Global GAP certification includes requirements for the application of high technology in agriculture. Technology application is inevitable. In fact, more and more Vietnamese enterprises are starting to follow this trend.
Currently, Vina Milk has been using the latest technology in its 9 dairy farms. The farm complex in Thanh Hoa province alone cost $129 million.
In our high-tech dairy farms, we use the latest equipment, and they are mostly imported from the US. We use advanced systems for milking, feeding the calves, collecting and treating wastewater, and air conditioning.
At a recent working session with the Ministry of Planning and Investment, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc stressed that the Vietnamese agricultural sector must follow Industry 4.0 to create breakthroughs. This year, Vietnam is expected to put 16 modern agro-produce manufacturing factories into operation.
Now we check out the foreign exchange rates. Coming up next, Vietnam improves minimum wage in 2018. Vietnam's biggest rose garden attracts visitors on International Women's Day. Starting today, bus passengers in Ho Chi Minh City can use UniPass cards for electronic payment. This convenient payment method for bus services are piloted by the Ho Chi Minh City Department of Transportation and the Municipal Public Transport Center. UniPass cards are used to pay for bus rides wirelessly. Passengers can also use QR codes on their mobile phones to pay as an alternative. From now until June, Ho Chi Minh City will apply this tech to 139 vehicles on 7 routes. The second phase, starting July, will add 141 vehicles on 7 routes to this program. Vietnam is reducing the gap with Singapore, the country with the highest average income in Southeast Asia, according to a recently announced report on Jobstreet.com. The report shows that the wage rise of 4 levels led to the increase of the minimum wage from $225 to $250. Vietnam's figure is really high compared to Indonesia, the country with the lowest income in the region. As we delivered the news in our bulletin this morning, HIV/AIDS patients in Vietnam will enjoy free antiretroviral ARV drugs from the health insurance program, and they do not have to wait long because the AIDS starts today, March the 8th. And is regarded as a meaningful program for HIV patients and the health sector in general. ARV drugs, which are used to control HIV infection, used to be given to Vietnamese patients free by international organizations. However, the aid was cut in 2017 as Vietnam is no longer a poor country. Over the past 2 years, patients had to pay a part of ARV's price, but the drugs are now free again from today. 48,000 patients of HIV/AIDS are expected to receive free ARVs in 2019. The Vietnam Association of the Elderly, HIVAIDS International in Vietnam, and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation held a conference with the theme Adapting to Population Aging in Asia, Social Participation and Employment Perspectives. In 2011, the percentage of people from 65 years of age account for 7% of the Vietnamese population, which means Vietnam is now in the aging population phase. The conference focused on the socio-economic consequences, raising the retirement age for male and female workers, human resources and financial issues in caring for the elderly, nutrition for the elderly, among others. Delegates also shared experiences in adapting to aging populations in Japan and Thailand, where the elderly are encouraged to join social activities suitable to their health. Today, March the 8th, is the International Women's Day, and it is also the name of a street in the heart of Hanoi. About half a century ago, many female workers used to work on a factory on this street. The factory they worked for is no more, but the women are still here to tell about the best stories of their time.
Would our grandchildren want to learn about the March 8th textile factory? That place witnessed our golden years. Those hard days working 3 shifts per day, non-stop.
Those lines are from a poem written by Thuy, a former female worker from the March 8th textile factory. To reminisce about their youth, Thuy and her friends gathered and shared stories from the times they worked at the factory. There were young women back then, mostly mothers and sisters, who worked during the bombings and wartime to produce the first textile products that were made in Vietnam.
I had worked there since I was 17. Now I am 77 years old. It was very hard time back then. We only had 4 yarn machines and 100 weaving machines. 3 to 4 workers had to share one machine. Because of this, we were very close.
We were so young back then, just 18 to 20 years old. We were even willing to work non-stop during the Tết holiday because we wanted to help Vietnam defeat our enemy.
To mark the golden memories of the textile factory, the street where it was built was renamed as March 8th Street in 2010.
I was so proud and happy when the street was renamed. Our grandchildren would ask questions like why the street had that name. It gave us a chance to tell them our stories. They are very proud of us.
The former female workers at the factory now all have grey hair. However, their memories of the factory will remain vividly in their hearts and minds. It shows through their poems.
Now all of our hair has turned gray, but every time it's March the 8th, we still remember our textile factory. We can still hear the sound of the weaving machines from the good old days.
The Vietnamese Women's Museum yesterday held a ceremony to receive historical valuable items from an American woman, Nancy Hollander. She used to be a member of the American Women's Mission and used to meet with other women of Vietnam in Jakarta, Indonesia in 1965.
A notebook, a slogan cloth, more than 450 documents including letters, reports, books and magazines by American women about the historical meeting in Indonesia, which was the first diplomatic event between Vietnam and the United States, were given to the Vietnamese Women's Museum. It is said that American women have a better understanding of Vietnamese people, the division of the country, and the war situation in Vietnam. They studied the documents and resources provided by the Vietnamese women's group to supplement their thesis when trying to convince their government to end the Vietnam War.
It was a very emotional meeting. I believe we cried. as the American women heard the horrible things that were happening in Vietnam at that time, and we became friends and we made connections.
Through these items, we can say that all women share the same ideals, focusing on maintaining the peace regardless of nationalities. Such an item also proved the world's support for Vietnam during the war.
This is an emotional moment when two friends have a chance to meet again after decades. They are the former American student Nancy Hollander and head of the Vietnamese women's delegation in South Vietnam, Nguyễn Thị Bình. Now their hair is gray, yet throughout their lives, they always strived for peace.
The International Labour Organization, or ILO, recently called on all men to do more chores to promote gender equality. According to ILO, in the past 3 decades, gender inequality in the world has not changed significantly. The main cause is that women still have to spend more time and effort caring for their families. Each woman spends around 4.5 hours each day on housework on average, while men only spend around 1 hour and 23 minutes. On the occasion of International Women's Day, let's visit an ideal romantic destination. That is the biggest rose garden in Vietnam, just located 50 kilometers away from center of Hanoi. This 3.5-hectare garden in Muong Châu village, Vân Hòa commune of Ba Vì district, is definitely a promising place for flower lovers.
More than 100 species of flowers with more than 3 million roses have become a giant stage for women when they come to the rose garden in Muong Châu village, Ba Vì district. Despite traveling about 60 kilometers to arrive, this group of visitors is not tired since they can enjoy fresh nature and the aroma of flowers.
The roses smell so attractive. We feel 10 years younger. It's not easy to have a chance to enjoy the nature like this.
This married couple also took photos for their wedding anniversary. The dream of giving his wife a bouquet of roses on their wedding day 40 years ago is now becoming a reality. Young couples are also eager to visit the rose garden.
I feel so happy because this will be our unforgettable memory.
With 600,000 rose flower trees, this is also an ideal destination for flower lovers. Instead of already available gifts, romantic partners can arrange a trip away with the beloved woman of their lives.
In our world news, U.S. open to further talks with North Korea over denuclearization. Russian Duma passes bills banning fake news. U.S. President Donald Trump is open to additional talks with the North Korean leader over denuclearization. His National Security Advisor John Bolton said on Thursday, despite reports that North Korea is reactivating parts of its missile program. He added that it was too soon to make a determination on the reports of the North Korean activities, and the U.S. will study the situation carefully, adding that the U.S. has many ways to verify information about this issue. Regarding talks with Pyongyang, also on Thursday, State Department spokesman Robert Palladino affirmed Washington's commitment to be ready for constructive negotiation. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen reminded all government officials to be highly responsible for their duties and warned that it takes only 15 minutes to dismiss any official. He said that every officer must carry out his duties and always take 2 motives and 5 approaches, including internal interferences and making friends based on independence and sovereignty. The Cambodian Prime Minister recently ordered to remove 2 deputy governors for using excessive force against villagers during clashes on land issued in Prey Nop district, Sihanouk, late January, according to the sub-decree dated 1st of March. Russia's State Duma has approved legislation that would block websites that publish what the authorities deem to be fake news, and penalizing websites that insult authorities, state symbols, and what the legislation vaguely describes as Russian society. It also set maximum fines for publishing fake news of more than $1,500 on individuals, more than $3,000 on public officials, and about $7,600 on companies. To become law, the bills must still be approved by the Parliament's upper chamber, the Federation Council, and signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. More and more women are finding friends and romantic partners through mobile apps. That is why friend-finding apps such as Bumble, BFF and Girl Crew are becoming more popular. We take a close look in the following report.
Priya Vihara, 35, smiled as she sat next to Cindy Santos, 39, another Brooklyn resident whom she met through Bumble BFF. 2 months later, they are friends who share a glass of wine as well as life complaints and comforts.
I swiped and we matched, which was great. And then we kind of had a few messages between each other. And then we met really quickly and had a really, really amazing night and lots of fun. And very quickly I thought to myself, yeah, this could be a good girlfriend for me.
Loneliness is a global challenge. Nearly half of Americans say they sometimes or always feel alone or left out, according to a 2018 Cigna and Ipsos studies. Britain last year appointed a minister for loneliness to address the social isolation felt by more than 1 in 10 people in the country.
Going from not knowing each other to identifying shared interests, that process is one of the first steps in making a new friend. And apps, online communities, the internet can fast track that.
Bumble BFF, which the dating app Bumble launched worldwide in 2016, counts among its friendship successes an Atlanta-based group of baseball-loving women who go to Braves game together, say Bumble Chief Brand Officer Alex Williamson. Other apps to find friends are also welcome, such as Girl Crew's 100,000 members in more than 50 cities across 7 countries include women who may want to team up for an afternoon of axe throwing or hiking or a pottery class.